Hello everybody, and thank you for coming. This is appointment number 5. My name is Mike. This channel is called Street Smarts, a logistical approach, a logical approach, if you would. I've dedicated this to helping improve your game, your extra sensory, your ability to improve, to be successful, to be happy for you and your family, your loved ones, your endeavors. As well, in there, Street Smarts is the ability to protect yourself, okay? We oftentimes go around with the best intentions of the world, and then we get sidetracked, or we get screwed over, or there's some accident or setback or whatever. Street Smarts really is something that you really should have to help you avoid pitfalls, problems, all kinds of things that keep you between you and your goals or you and your happiness. Today's subject is to be a polygraph. How to be a polygraph. When we hear that word polygraph, it's controversy, right? It means deception. It means the ability to sift out somebody's story, and you can tell if they're telling the truth or not, okay? So before we go into that, just as a disclaimer, don't use your ability of being a polygraph as as a weapon, okay? Don't use it to point the finger at people, okay? If you can help it, if you discover that somebody's lying to you, it's best just to okay, now I'm going to keep an eye on this person. Okay, it's best to keep it like that, okay? And with as little, business interaction, personal interaction as humanly possible. Just kind of let that be, because, just keep them on your radar. But enemies are a dime a dozen. I'm just going to strongly advise you, unless it's your spouse or something that you really, really have to do. If you're out and about in the course of business or whatever, and you find out somebody's not telling you the truth, just get distance from them. Don't call them out. Don't point at them. And I'll tell you why. No one has a crystal ball. Ultimately, you can't see through walls. You can't see in the future. You can't see in the past. You have to go by what resources you have. And so if you have a strong sense that somebody's telling a lie or whatever, I mean, you have to know for a fact before you confront them. And if all possible, like I said, try not to confront them. Just keep it in, under your vest. Maybe tell, your inner circle or people that are close to you, be careful of this situation or this person or whatever. But, unless you have absolute proof, you got no right going to somebody and putting your finger in their face and saying, I think you're lying, okay? But at the same time, you have a right to protect yourself. So it can be a very emotional situation to kind of investigate or ask somebody pointed questions, in lieu of finding out if they're telling the truth or not. So anyways, let's get on with it. I'm going to point this out. This is, when you think of polygraph, you think of some kind of detective movie where somebody's wired up to a machine or whatever, and they're asking the person questions and everything's going fine, and then they ask it something and those needles start jumping off the charts. It's making a bunch of noise, and the eyes get big, and we've discovered this person is lying. Well, even then, the courts find that polygraphs are actually inadmissible. You can state, for the record, this person failed a polygraph, but you can't say, well, they failed a polygraph, therefore they're guilty. Okay? So that's not 100%. There's no crystal ball. You can't see through walls. You can't see into the future. So that's my point about just be careful. It's very emotional. When somebody is, it's discovered like a thief, if you catch somebody and they've been, they've stolen something or whatever, they're not going to be mad at themselves. They got the balls to steal something, they've already kind of, put it off or justified why they had to steal, right? Usually they get upset. They get upset at you, okay, for catching them. It'll be a big F-bomb fest, okay? And it just gets ugly. So again, once you ascertain or you feel strongly or something has come about that proves that somebody's lying, just try to keep that under your vest, okay? And just get distance from that person or keep an eye on them. There's an old saying, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Well, why would you want to keep your enemies closer than your friends? That doesn't make sense. Because your enemies, if they're closer, you can keep an eye on them. You can keep an eye on them to protect yourself, okay? So anyways, I'm going to get into just a couple ways to polygraph for yourself and for your protection. One thing that stands out is something that happens quite a bit, and I know you've heard this before. Be on the lookout when you're engaging somebody and, in the midst of conversation, the person will out and out say, I'm not going to lie to you, but truth be told, blah, 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 okay? I'm not going to lie, blah, 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 blah. Well, why would you say that first? I'm not going to lie, And it's not to be dismissed. If somebody says that, perhaps, they are lying. Or, they have lied before, and that's a good way for them to kind of soften you up to see what your reaction is. I believe it's subconscious that somebody would say that. Not everybody says that, but we've all heard it before. So when somebody starts off with, I'm not going to lie, but, does it mean they're lying? No. Do we know that they're lying because anything after that is a lie? No. But for them to say that, well, open your eyes. Okay? Keep your 360 on. Keep that person close enough to where you can, really take into account and inventory what they have to say next. Okay? I'm just saying that's an awareness. It's not a polygraph, but I find it funny. I work at a prison, so I hear that a lot. I get into sifting through, investigations and things that take place in the walls that have to have, assertion to it. There's reports, and we got to interview certain people depending on what's taken place, and sometimes you hear that. So I just put that out there. One thing that's very popular, and this will be a big point of you being a polygraph, is in the midst of a conversation, okay? Whether you're trying to find something out, it doesn't matter how old the person is or who they are, in lieu of business, okay? If you're buying a car, you're meeting somebody for the first time. It's a very important, transaction. You're going to buy a vehicle. This is just an example, but maybe ask the person a series of questions. Okay, what's the mileage? How many times have you had it worked on? Have you had any issues? Is the transmission okay? Is the engine okay? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, and when you ask them those questions, and you're getting the answers, then maybe segue into like another subject. Oh, your garage, I see some you hunt. Okay, well, you got some picture. Have you traveled? Blah, 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 blah. You kind of change it up. Then go back to the issue of the vehicle and the different stats that you had asked about, and maybe ask the question but word it a little differently. So that person will then answer again the same question, but it's worded differently. And if they answer correctly a second time, you're probably good. It's probably safe to buy the car. But for example, if there's a bunch of points that they had answered and then the second time you ask, a couple minutes later, there's an item that's changed, or the answer is different from the first time, well, does it mean they're lying? Well, no, but now you're kind of suspect, okay? So, and that goes, in life too. You could do this with your kids. I'm not saying experiment on your spouse or your kids or your neighbor, okay? It's not what it's for. Don't weaponize being a polygraph. Excuse me. But I find myself from time to time asking somebody some questions about something or details, and then I'll wait for a while, even the next day if I can, but even moments later, and I'll ask the same question, but I'll word it a little bit differently. And if they answer the same, though I've asked it differently, I think you're good to go. If they answer differently than the first time, same question, worded differently, I mean, does it mean we have a problem? Well, it depends on the circumstance. I'm just trying to get you to be aware of, people and, the plotting and scheming that can go on, and you don't want to be a victim, okay? Now, you can be too paranoid too. We know people that, I guess it's good to question things, but when you're questioning every single detail, splitting every hair, dotting every I, crossing every T, I mean, you might not have any friends because of that, okay? But I'm just saying, when you traverse through your day-to-day operations, be mindful. Be mindful on how people answer or how they give information, okay? So, there it is. To be a polygraph is something that I want your mind to be open to. Again, don't weaponize it. Don't go around telling people, I'm a psychologist now. I can tell if you're lying. Here, let me try it on you. No. A lot of the street smarts, social skills that I've laid out and told you entails being humble, okay? It entails being humble. So like I said, if somebody's out there and something happens and, you figure out that somebody's not telling the truth, well, hey, that's your lucky day, okay? That's a blessing for you, okay? Depends on the situation. If it's a really bad one, I mean, yeah, that's the confrontation, unfortunately, needs to be professional, but it has to happen. But if you can help it, just utilize, these, infractions that happen when you figure out somebody's deceptive. Just say, okay, I'm keeping track of that person from now on. And, as far as trusting, that's out the window. As far as listening, every time that person's around. Anyways, that's it for today. I so much appreciate your time. Please, again, if you could subscribe to my channel. Appointment number 6 is 1 week from today. I so appreciate you. Make sure to like your comments down below. Anything you want to criticize about, you want to disagree, hey, let's get to the bottom of it, okay? I appreciate it again so much. Thank you for your time, and I expect you to be there next week. Take care.